Okay, so I've got a very basic plan set up there, and now I want to go into these elevation views and start to look at some of the detailing tools. But even before I do that, I just want to show you some that maybe could be useful in a view like this. So, say for example you need to have the floor finish that you want. There's a floor should be there, but again I didn't make this file, so maybe it hasn't got one. So I'll go back to my main floor plan and just check. Oh, so they've got a floor there. Oh, I see what they've done. Okay, again, this is not my file, but I won't take credit. No. Well, it's actually not far off what I would have done, because I sometimes do use that approach where you can see here they've got a floor that's been cut out to make different materials. So that would be, and that's not a bad approach, because you can then do this. That's a separate floor. Exactly, it is. So what I was going to show you is that you can use split face to do that. So I will put in a new floor. I'm going to select these floors. That's another good approach, and I do that approach as well. So what you're saying is you stack the floors, and I do that as well, because that is similar to the way you would build, and I'm going to show you that too. So yeah, I want to show you all those approaches because it's tied in with detailing. So okay, so here I'm just going to do a simple thing. I'm going to isolate the category, and that way I can see what have they done here. Oh, they've got a floor, but then they've left a gap out for where the core is, I suppose. So yeah, it's a cutout. So it's a bit weird that they've gone around here. I don't know why they've done it like this. And yeah, this is someone else. I know who's made it. And anyhow, we can fix this. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's not bad. Yeah, there's a floor there and a floor there. There's a series of split up floors, and I know why they've done it, because the method I'm going to show you using split face has its limits. You can only go so far with that.
Yeah, so when I went to put in the bathrooms in Drawing, there was no floor.
That's right, yes. And so I've got the same file, so I've got to go and put a floor into that area where I want that my bathroom tiles to be. So I've got that, and so now I'll bring my walls back. And so, to make the bathrooms be tiled but the rest not, you've got a few different options. The quick and dirty way is to use this one that hopefully you all have an idea about, but maybe think is a bit fiddly, called split face. It's good to know about this because for interiors it's really important. You often need to split things, not just your floors but your walls. If you need to have a different material just for one part of your wall, you can use split face. So that's a good thing to know about, especially for interior design. So if I choose split face, I then just need to select my floor, and notice you've got an orange boundary line, and then I could either draw a rectangle inside that orange boundary, but I want to do it the right way and go right up to the threshold. So instead of just doing that, I'm going to show you, so that would work. But I just want to show you how to work with that boundary line. The trick is, you draw up to it, but not over it. So I can extend this line up to touch it, and extend this line up to touch it, and that will work. Because I'm touching the boundary. But if I draw over the boundary, it'll give me an error. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. They might have fixed it, but I'm pretty sure if I try to finish it now, yeah, got to be a closed loop, lying completely within the... Oh, is it? Frozen? Oh, okay.
Is that the error where it says this will affect pre-existing?
Oh, it just won't let you complete it. Yeah. So I've got to delete this line, and I could either leave it like this, or to give you some alternatives, if you're fussy and you want to have it the way the tiles would really be, that would be up to the door and then to here. Right, but there's no problem if the tiles go under the wall, really. No one will know except you, unless you want to get into quantities, and then you'd have to use a different approach anyway. So this works. But the method Carolyn mentioned is actually what I do, the stacking of floors, and I'll show you why I think that's a good option as well. But this works. So that way I've split the face, and now I need to have a tile material. So I'll just quickly make one. So I've shown you enough duplicating a material, so I'll just remind you about the option you've got to make a new material if you've forgotten that one. Bring up this button here to bring up your little library panel down here. And then we can go to ceramic and get a brand new tile material to save me doing all the duplicating. And I'll call that ceramic tile floor. And then most important thing is to have the crosshatch pattern set to model for your surface pattern, and then choose or make the size that you want. I'll just choose the 250 square, and then I may as well set a render material while I'm at it. So for this I'll go to the place and grab something new. Tiles. That'll do. So boring white tiles, but at least they've got a pattern. Okay, so now I can go to paint. It should come up with that material that I just made selected, and I can pick this area, and there's my tile. Now, no, now that's happened because the person who made this file didn't do some things properly, and they, again, I know who made it, I've got a pretty good idea, so and I've taught them, so I know what they've done, so. Oh, that's all to do with the detailing. I'll get onto that. Yeah, that's there. Yeah. So, okay. So the issue there is just the alignment of the tiles, and it's picked up the orientation of the project, which you'll see behind the scenes still has that as the project north, or yeah, because the building's been rotated, but not the project. So it's easy to fix on the fly. If you go to use the align tool, you can pick a wall, and then pick one of the edges of those tiles, and it will line up, no problem. So that's fine. Yeah, that's right. So, and it's nice. It does go on to lots of things. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the toilets coming up see-through, because I can show you that, and that's going to get us into the detailing options. So, if I select that family and go to Edit Family, then you'll see it is a 3D toilet. So why is it not being covered? Or why is the 3D not covering up the tiles? There's two reasons. The main reason is that those 3D things are actually hidden in plan. So you'll see here, in fact I'll go back to the 3D so that I can select one of those 3D things, and you'll see if you go to this visibility settings option, it's set, well, it's actually set there to show in the plan. Normally there would be turned off, and that's why it's not showing. But in this case, it's not at this level. It is, I guarantee you, it is hidden. But you've got to think about the way the families are set up as well. So it's set to show in here, but that doesn't mean it will, because, have a look above, whenever you see something that you don't expect in a family, have a look here and see if it is a family that you've selected. So this is a nested family. That's common, and it's done for a reason. I don't think it needs to be nested, but I know why they've done it. Oh, because here it's got Edit Family, and over here it tells you the name as well. So it means a family within a family. So this family is a file called WCPan's concept. Exactly. So if I go to Edit Family, that toilet seat is its own family. That's right. Exactly. And so now if we go to Visibility Settings, there it is. It's turned off. So that's why we don't see it in plan.
Okay, because I've had that issue with a couple of
Yeah. It's really common. So, okay, so we've got a few ways of making it hide the tiles. We can either just turn on the 3D in plan. That would be okay here. But then we'd have to get the back, and we'd have to make that visible as well, which is going to add... Oh, yeah. Yeah, normally you would hide the 3D things, if you're going to set it up perfectly.
Really?
Yeah, especially for things like WCs, because there's another way of hiding them. So the other way...
Why would you hide them? Like, why would you hide the scene? Isn't that what you want to see?
Not necessarily, because often what you see in the plan or the elevation is a simplified version of the 3D thing.
Yeah.
So it gives you the option in Revit. This is one of the best things about Revit. Yeah, it makes it much more powerful in a way than ArchiCAD, because of all the different display options you have. So you've got the option of having, again, these detailing tools to show things in plan or another view that's different to the 3D display. So it's on the Annotate tab, same as what I'm going to show in the project in a minute. The only difference is, in a family, you only have masking regions. You can't make filled regions for some reason, which I still don't completely understand, but I have to go with it. You can make masking regions though, and that will cover things. You've got detail components. If you need to do filled regions, you can using detail components, but that's harder. And then instead of detail lines, they call them symbolic lines in a family for some reason. But symbolic lines and detail lines, to my way of thinking, are basically the same thing. So these lines here, notice how they're a slightly different shape to the 3D. So that's what we see in plan, a simplified version of this complex 3D thing.
Right.
So the problem with that is that it's another nested family. So I've got to go to Edit Family. And you can see now why they've done it nested, because it's much easier to work on in isolation. Okay, so there's my nested family, and it's actually AutoCAD. So you know how I've been saying to a lot of you, if you've done AutoCAD, you can import that into Revit, and it's just like it's been made in Revit. You won't notice a difference until you find the reference. So you can see all these lines, they just look like Revit lines. And so now...
It's been made in AutoCAD.
Yeah.
Imported into Revit.
Yeah, yeah. And if it's 2D, simple 2D stuff, you can even explode it and work with it. It's only 3D stuff I recommend you don't explode usually. So now I'm going to make a masking region. And here you can notice, because this is a detail component, I can put a filled region in if I wanted to have a hatch pattern. But it's the 3D ones where you can't add filled regions. So masking regions here are brilliant, and I can then just pick these lines if it'll let me. Probably doesn't want me to, so I'll... oh no, they're picking just these ones. Yeah. So I'll try using tab to chain it. There we go, that's working. Yep, don't worry about all the padlocks, they're fine. And then here, there we go. Yep, yep, and then just a bit of tidying up and it's done.
So I know what you're doing. This is creating a mask that will hide the top.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. That's it. That's the whole point.
Like colouring in.
It is, it is.
Well, it's like mask in Photoshop.
It is, just like masks. Yeah.
Well, no, it's the opposite of coloring it.
Kind of.
Reverse covering, yeah, colouring it, that's it, yeah. So, there we are. Okay, so if I just repeat that on the other side. Okay, so I've got my boundary, and that should work pretty well. But now I'm going to select all of these lines and set them to be invisible lines. So we don't see those lines in anywhere. So, okay, so that's going to hide anything underneath. And my other lines should also come through. So I'm going to... I won't save this, I'm just going to load that back into the file with the WC, which is this one. Oh no, sorry, the seat first. So we're going to go to there first. And it'll tell us we can't create this kind of thing in this kind of view. That doesn't matter. As long as in plan... Oh no, sorry, that was the wrong file. So that's the file with the toilet seat, which we don't need anymore. So that doesn't matter. Go back out of there. And so this is my CAD view plan, that's right. So now I can load into project, I can get the right one, which is this file. And there we are. Because it was already loaded, now it's giving me the option to override it. You won't see much difference here.
So that will mask everything underneath it,
Yeah,
nothing above it.
that's right, everything underneath, yeah. So now I'll load it from here into the project file. There we go.
That seems like a lot of effort.
I know, you'd think so, but the thing is, it's all this systems-based approach, and so now it's done for every WC in the whole building. That's what I did. I did a masking region. Yeah. At the family level. Otherwise, you'd have to do a masking region for all 500 WCs, which is more work. So that's why it is more work. It seems like a difficult thing to set up all of these families and do all the management. But the whole reason it's set up like this is because in interior design and architecture, you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of repeated objects, and it's more about the management than the actual drawing. Yeah, well that's right, but even residential, oh my god, the stuff you've got to do now to keep clients happy because it's their house and they care. I love residential, yeah. Okay, so then, just coming back to what I was going to show you, is a simple thing like a floor waist. So if you want a floor waist,
We have to draw the fall,
yeah, exactly, you've got to draw the fall. So how do you do that?
lines going to it,
Exactly, so how do you do the lines?
direction that it falls.
Exactly. So you've got a few different options. You can draw lines that are 3D using model lines. Right, and that's okay. If you're happy to see them in all of the views, that's fine. But often, things like this, you don't want to see them in your 3D views or the other views. You only want to see them in the view that you're drawing in.
So it's more realistic. Would you see in perspective?
No, model lines you will see in perspective, but detail lines you won't. That's right. So detail lines are set up to only show in the view you draw them in. So it's like you're drawing an AutoCAD overlay on top of what Revit's giving you. And that opens up a lot of possibilities because, again, I'm always comparing it to ArchiCAD because we're looking at bringing ArchiCAD in alongside Revit into our courses, but we've got to really plan it out because the way it works is quite different to Revit. It doesn't have, I don't think it's got as many back-end tools that are as powerful as Revit, but ArchiCAD, oh yeah, it's popular. ArchiCAD's a real all-rounder, and but it does things quite differently to Revit. So a lot of the detailing in ArchiCAD comes from the 3D model, whereas in Revit they've set up from the outset to have this 2D drawing capability all the way through. ArchiCAD has this too, but it's different. So again, with detail lines, okay, so you've got these pre-made line styles, which will give you most of the things that you're probably familiar with already in AutoCAD. So if you get these BC4 ones, they're ones that other people have made, but the others there,
Things that imported into AutoCAD.
yeah, that's right. So whoever made this file, and again, wasn't me, they made all of these line styles. And they probably didn't realise they were doing it. They probably did it by bringing an AutoCAD file into this, or something like that. They brought it in probably without meaning to. So what you can look at though are things like the line weights. That's a good one to start with. So you've got, say, the 0.35 pin. Well, let's go 0.18. So that's a fairly light pin, and then I can just draw lines, which might be for my floor waist, and I might just do it all the way across, and we'll pretend that it's going to go under these walls, which is possible. Not really, but we'll say it is. Well, so let's do it in two sections. So we'd have two falls then, if we're going to do it with this dividing wall, and we'd have to work around that disabled access one. So maybe we'll just go to here, and then to there, and then the other one coming off here, and we'd midpoint, not midpoint it, but divide it up. Yeah, so it might be something like that. And then you'd have your floor waist symbol in the middle. But I just wanted to look at the detail lines because it's a good chance to see. Yeah, well, they're 0.18, so they're in the old days that would have been your thinnest line. I mean, a 0.18 pen was when you just did draw by hand. That was about the thinnest you went. But
No, but I mean like the
She's talking about the angle and configuration and how it's not centered.
oh well, you couldn't see just because the room's L-shaped. Yeah, just because it's L-shaped, you couldn't have it. Yeah. So, and then each one would have its own. So yeah. Okay, so but what I wanted to look at is the line weights because now that you've used AutoCAD and set the line weights manually, this will mean a lot more, hopefully. Hopefully. Okay, because the thing that's never obvious with AutoCAD is that there is no golden rule for your line weights. And people think, oh, why can't you just give us the line weight that we should be using? And there isn't because it changes depending on whether it's cut or in projection, of course, but then also depending on the scale. And so, yeah, that's right. Yeah, now you know. But you've got to do it to understand it. And that's right. Yeah, no, that's right. There isn't. And also depends on personal preference because some people like heavier lines. Yeah. Or I like lighter lines. But
Floor plans have a definite style.
Oh yeah, sure. And so that's good because you know you can put a bit of your own stamp on it. But then with the also depending on the projects as well. If it's got a lot of stuff going on, then you've got to change the line weight. So just to go back to AutoCAD, you can make plot style tables. That's often a good way of doing your line weights. If you've got to do a few, you can make a plot style table for each different scale. That works pretty well. Otherwise, you end up having to make different layers for every scale, which is tedious, or set the line weights to your layers every time you need to put a different scale, which is, oh boy, that's a really slow way. Yeah.
Don't know how to do it.
Yeah, we didn't really learn that.
Now, plot style tables, they're hard to understand until you've gone through the pain of doing what I'm talking about, and then you realise it's worth putting a bit of effort into plot style table. But you might think, well, maybe I'll just go and use Revit for as much of this as I can.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because,
That's where I'm at. That is
yeah,
exactly where I'm
yeah.
at.
There is a certain kind of plot style table in AutoCAD called a style table, as opposed to a colour dependent style table, that does have these options built in. But it's so complicated, most people don't even realise it's there. I mean, I saw it 20 years ago, but it's kind of buried. And yeah, well, most people just don't get it because their minds don't work that way. So if you look at Revit though, it makes it much clearer. When you go to additional settings on the Manage tab, you'll see line weights. And you'll see all of these things I've been talking about set out for you in a table, and it makes it clear that what I'm saying is right, that you have different line weights that change depending on your scale. And so that they give you 16 pens, and you might think, well, that's not enough. I might need 100 because in AutoCAD I have 100 layers. But when you think about it, you don't even need 16 pens. I get by with 5 for most projects, if that. And so they're my 5 different line weights that I need, the different line weight types, not the actual line weights. And so then, if it's the one that I've just set, which is 0.1, so this drawing, it's 1 to 200. So that means that that pen must be pen 1, and at this scale it is 0.1. But if I go to 1 to 10, that line weight will change to 0.18. So with those detail lines, you can see that it says 0.1, that's the name, but it can't be that. That's right, that's it. It's just a general setting for the line weight. So to see where those line weights are set to the pens, so you've got that line weight section first, then you've got line styles. So line styles give you similar options to what you do normally with layers in AutoCAD. Right, so you can set a colour and a line pattern.
Yeah, you show me how to change this back to black.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah, when you see coloured lines, that's where you can change it. So that one that was a 0.1 pen here. So again, you've got the same options as AutoCAD. You can set any colour you want.
Oh, so you can make it grey and then it would look pink.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I can do that. And then, yeah, so maybe we'll do that. So grey is really good for faint lines. And then the line pattern, so that's how you get your different line types, dashed lines and so on. And then the line weight gets set to those pen numbers. So you need to know what the line weight is for each pen number. But normally you want it, 1 to be the lightest and 16 is the heaviest, and you never use 16, but it's the heaviest. So that's now changed it to grey. It's still 0.1, but if I went to 1 to 10, it's harder to see, but if I zoomed in, you would see it's actually a heavier line.
Yeah.
But in relation to the walls, it seems thinner because, yeah. So that will give you, again, all those 2D things that you want to draw over your plans, but you don't want showing up in the other views.
So how much detail do you as an architect have in that you actually say where you want the waste disposition of the tile?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a huge part of it as well.
In
Yeah.
that case, you've got where the waste is at the central to that floor,
Yeah.
right bang in the middle of the tile. Would you move it to the opposite?
You don't have to. No, they can cut tiles.
Yeah, they just cut tiles,
Yeah.
stick them around.
Yeah.
And what about
But what you can do is you can get these tiles that floor waste that look like tiles, so then you would centre it perfectly. Yeah.
oh yeah, I've got one of those.
Yeah.
Go over that. But what about the trough ones?
Yeah. So that's another design,
How
and
does the floor go through?
it goes so the whole thing slopes to that.
The whole plan?
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
each corner of the tile.
Yeah, or if they're a full-length one, yeah, that's it, yeah. Yep. So, yeah, lots of ways of doing it, and there are some great floor-waste products out now, because, they're onto those ugly things that everyone used to use. But it shows you how spoilt we are in the Western world, that, or probably not just the whole world now, that we have this whole industry of floor waste just to make it look a bit prettier.
Our bathroom is still garbage.
Oh yeah, yeah. So here though, I want these in the detail plan, so I can cut them from this view, and then go to the one that has the call out, and then under modify, paste, align to current view, to move them across. So those things, important you realise, are 2D elements that are overlaid on top of the drawing, and they're unique to that view. So even though I'd made the call out from level 35 to make this one, those detail lines don't show up there until I manually put them in there. Okay, so probably don't have time to go through all the detailing because we're just going to run out of time, but I just want to point out the hatching tools. So you've got filled regions and masking regions that I already showed you. So filled regions are similar to masking regions, except of course they're filled. And that would be another way of doing the tiles, the floor tiles, but it would be unique to each view. I did want to show you the stacking method, but I think I'll have to show you that next week. So, but I'll just explain it quickly because Caitlin was onto the right thing. The stacking method is that you build the structural floor, so maybe the concrete floor for the whole level, as one big floor, and then all the different materials you build on top of that with nice thin sliver type floors. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, most people do work it out because if you're thinking about the construction, yeah.
Some of them are like a millimetre thick.
Well, you can use split face, but split face, it is hard, and also there's a limit. It starts not working properly once you go beyond a certain number of split faces. Oh, it does work well. The one I showed you at the beginning, that you can, like 6 or 7, and then it seems to stop working properly.
I couldn't get it to work on curves.
No, it doesn't work on certain surfaces. Only on, yeah.
Because my apartment's wood.
Yeah, no, only sometimes, yeah. That's what I do normally. If I know I'm going to construction, which is most projects, then I'll do it exactly like that because that's how you build it. You make the floor level, and that's your structural floor, and then your finished floor level is set up above that, and that makes you think about when you've got to do your rebates or whatever to get the floors flush, or just accept that you're going to have a slight change in floor level from the carpet to the tiles, and you know that because you're modelling it. And that's a great approach, and you don't have any of these issues where you've got to, assign separate materials and stuff. So that's a good approach. If you want to stack them, that's...
What do you mean, stack floor on top of
Yeah.
Change the materials.
And because they don't have automatic joining options like walls do...
Walls that have the materials already built in, but then it doesn't show you the difference.
Oh no, but this is for floors though.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, so you would build the...
Finish
Yeah.
and the thickness,
Yeah.
and consider that and the thickness.
Yeah, but say you've got 2 different materials side by side.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
This is for like breaking up of one floor in multiple materials.
Get back to the cast.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll just finish recording. I'm just finished now. I'm nearly done. Yeah. So so anyhow, we'll look more at those filled regions next week, definitely. But just so you know, you've got all the same options for hatching as you do in AutoCAD. And you might think, oh well, that doesn't look like the number of hatch patterns you've got in AutoCAD because AutoCAD has, a lot more at first. Yeah, but make sure you realise that you can bring in any PAT file. So AutoCAD hatch patterns, if you don't know, they're PAT files, .pat, same format Illustrator uses. And so you can get any of those pattern files, and just with a little bit of changing of the file, just putting some text at the beginning, you can make it work in Revit. So all of the, all of the AutoCAD, and there are millions of AutoCAD pattern files you can find online. These beautiful, fully detailed material hatch patterns with millions. Yeah. So when you think about all the different ways stone can look. So in elevation, you can have really complicated, Yeah, some are better than others, but you can modify them too. And then if you do it in Illustrator, you can use their pattern editor and draw it, and then turn it into a pat file. Yeah. And as long as it's all lines, then you can do it. So make sure you realise that, and I'll show you how to do that later. You can bring any AutoCAD pattern in, and and make it work as a Revit fill pattern. And so for now, I'll just choose something like this and draw in a pattern. So that's an option for doing any hatch you need. And we'll go further with that next week. And then, so that's regions. And then, but the other big thing in detailing is all the things under component. You've got detail components. So you know about components. They're your 3D things mostly. But under annotate, yeah, that's right. And so here, detail components are just as big. You've got just as many. In fact, you've got more detail components usually than your regular components. So there's a huge range of those.
When you mean like what?
So 2D, yeah, so details. And anything. So you can see that one that comes up on the little flay out there. That's this standard, one of your standard construction details, not the one with the step down, drop down at the edge, but it's a pretty typical floor junction. And so that's the sort of thing you can do with the detail components. Yeah, any of those things. Yeah, insulation is a special tool, but yeah, floor waste, absolutely. Yeah, anything 2D. And then you've got repeating details, which take it a bit further. So you can do things like brickwork, tiles, roof tiles, lots of things you can do with that. And then the other one's ledging components. Ledging components. So you can do automatic legends. And yeah. So we'll go through all that next week, but there's a lot in the detailing in Revit. And then you've got detail grips and insulation, but we'll go through all that next week. So I just want to get you started on it, and we'll keep going with that. And then the other thing I'll just say is that the annotation, a lot easier to manage that now that you understand the scaling issues in AutoCAD and how you have to manage that by yourself, setting up dimension styles and text styles. That's right, Revit automates it, but it still has all the same options. So yeah, that should open up some options for you. We'll keep going next week.